All right, it is time for the end of month net worth update, and man, I feel like these are coming faster and faster, which is crazy. But nevertheless, it is the end of May, so let's jump into where I'm at currently. And as I always do, just going to cover some actions that I made in terms of my assets, as well as some things I'm observing and keeping an eye on, and then yeah, go from there. So for May 31st, 2026. Some actions taken here and some cool progress taken. So here's where we are. So for VTSAX, Vanguard Total Stock Market, um, value has shifted from 7,112 to now 7,830. Right. So some pretty solid growth there. It's pretty wild to see it appreciate that quickly. But with the AI explosion going on right now and just how much this mutual fund is just allocated to tech, and that's just where a lot of the growth is right now. You can just see that, it's definitely doing some work there. Of course, along with the contributions as well. Uh, and The emergency fund, slight boost here. You can see went from 22,006 to 22,206. 25K is the goal. As you can see, the number there, not as much of a shift here, simply because, as I mentioned in the prior video, I'm starting to kind of pump the brakes just a little bit. So this is still going to be a focus, but right now with the yields dropping on cash and comparing that to the crazy growth we're seeing right now just in the stock market in general, I'm at a point now where there's enough runway in terms of the emergency fund to just kind of pump the brakes a little bit, right? So I can just capture more of that growth while it's here, right? This is still going to be a focus of mine because I still have this goal, right? But I'm just starting to reallocate some of the numbers a bit here. The ounce of silver, still keeping that. And you can see there it's fairly stable. So not much is going on there currently. And really, to be honest with you, as long as we continue to see the kind of growth we're seeing just in the stock market in general right now, I don't really see this changing that much. But this is physical silver that I own, so I just use this to kind of track the value of it. Next, the Sheriff IAUM, the gold. I went ahead and sold that. I'm not sure if I mentioned that in my prior video or not, but as it currently stands, it's not something I'm actively trying to grow. And so, because I'm not, in my opinion, this is just more noise, if anything. So I went ahead and sold it and just allocated it into a VTSAX. Maybe in the future when I accumulate a lot more capital, more defensive positions like these may make a little more sense. But right now, it just didn't really seem like something worth holding on to. But still came out with the gain. So hey, we'll consider that a good lesson learned there. Uh, FOKR, this is the interesting one. You can see here went from 177 to 265.08. Obviously, right? I think about if I had a ton of capital to put into that thing, this thing really could have did some numbers there. But with that being said, right, this is intentionally a satellite position because I still have my goals I have to prioritize, right? And so even though, right, like I look at stuff like this and think, hey, man, I could have really made a lot more money if I put more in it. Everything is hindsight in 2020, right? Because we still had things like the strikes that happened with Samsung, right? And a bunch of little things, the oil situation, right? So even with all that said, the fact that we still experience this kind of growth is awesome. But I just try not to think too much about what could have been because, again, everything is clear, looking back to the past, right? And so that's where we are with that. And again, the heavyweights there are Samsung and SK Hynix, semiconductor powerhouses, and the money they're making hand over fist is just insane. And I am encouraged that, Samsung managed to come to a resolution with the union there regarding giving bonuses to their workers in the semiconductor division. So the market seems to be responding quite favorably to that. Uh, I'll go more into that later. But next, the VXUS again wasn't really actively growing this position neither, so I went ahead and sold it and consolidated it as well into VTSAX. And we hit a new milestone of, 30,701. So that feels really good. Third of the way to the, famous 100K Charlie Munger likes to talk about, right? The first 100K is the hardest, but it feels good. Things are moving slowly and steadily. And what I'm trying to focus on right now is just not doing anything too cute right now, which brings me to my final slide. So, yep, as I mentioned earlier, we hit that 30K milestone, which feels good. I'm super grateful for. Next, I am shifting more from focusing on the emergency fund to mutual funds. Vanguard Total Stock Market being my main one, right? Outside of like the position I have in FLKR, just for additional exposure to Samsung and SK Hynix. But I am shifting that allocation more from like an 80-20 to a 50-50, simply because I'm just in the point where, for the emergency fund, I can kind of sprint to that last, little bit there to finish it. And, also just still keep the priorities in VTSAX. And then next, increasing income is the next biggest lever for me. So just after, doing a lot of math on certain things, sorry, my journal update there. Yeah, I journal every week. But what was I saying? Yeah, so increasing income is the next biggest lever for me. So essentially just, after doing just some math and just reviewing all the numbers and metrics and investment strategies I've been thinking about, lately I've just been realizing that, hey, well, I can find great companies and, invest money in them, right? But at the end of the day, it's a lot easier to get the kind of traction you want when you just have more capital to invest, right? And so for me, what that's going to look like is, starting to look at one, seeing where I can improve things on the job front, right? Just re-examining my role, what is paying in the market right now, and just starting to take that next step there. And then also exploring business opportunities as well, just using my skills to take on more freelancing work and things like that, right? And I think some of those things get a lot easier to consider when you start to get some kind of footing under you. And so, yeah, I feel I'm at that point, right? So that's where we are currently. And so those would be some of the biggest things I'll be focusing on starting, in June and thereon. So I'll be updating on that as well. But aside from that, y'all, that's pretty much it. So, consolidated some things. We managed to hit the 30K. Just, we're making some pivots with the switch from emergency fund to, more mutual funds, specifically Vanguard Total Stock Market. Not doing anything fancy here right now. And then, yeah, we just keep the momentum growing. So that's it for this video. And until next month, peace.